top-ranking United Nations official in the Democratic Republic of Congo has rejected reports that UN peacekeepers shot and killed protesters in the eastern city of Goma after 2 days of demonstrations directed at the global organization. Briefing reporters from Kinshasa, the deputy head of the peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, indicated the importance of distinguishing between peaceful protesters and criminals seeking to loot UN premises in the region.
A statement from UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres earlier condemned the fatal attack on peacekeepers in Butembo, south of Goma. 2 Indian police personnel and 1 Moroccan blue helmet died during a violent demonstration at the mission's base in the town.
This was clearly an hostile act against our troops, and as you know, this may be a war crime. Now, the situation today can be described as normal fragility, if you wish, because with the advocacies we've made with the government since Monday, the Prime Minister, there have been some reinforcement of national security forces on the ground, securing our bases and installations. We've also reinforced troops from our own contingents to ensure that security is restored. And yesterday, we were very pleased last night, although a bit late, that the governor of the North Kivu province issued a strong statement calling for demonstrators to move out of the streets and banning all sorts of demonstrations from the street.
The protests were spurred by complaints that the UN peacekeepers were failing to protect civilians amid an upswing in attacks by armed groups, including the resurgent M23 in the country's east, forcing the organization to ask non-critical staff to work from home.
That's the category of protesters I wouldn't even call them protesters, I would say looters and criminals. And then, and those who are largely also infiltrated, we have evidence, by gangs and armed groups. And that's the group that we agreed with the government that we need to identify those who are involved and make sure that they're brought to justice. And it's the same group, that type of group, that fired at our colleagues in Butembo and killed 3 of them. So, but on the other side, you also now have groups that want to discuss, and talk about transition and talk about what MONUSCO can do in terms of protection of civilians. And we've been engaged with such groups for a long time, and they've never been violent.
He also rejected claims that UN peacekeepers were responsible for any civilian deaths after reports from the region that they were responsible for at least 2 fatalities and 2 further civilian injuries.
We need to have a quick forensic autopsy, toxicology, whatever you name it, and we have capacity because we have the UN police, scientific police, with the police. And in fact, as I am speaking, we are making arrangements to dispatch, if we don't have the capacity in Goma, doctors from Kinshasa to go and undertake this work so that we can get, literally extract the bullets, analyze them, see that, because from a UN perspective, we can trace all our weapons, our bullets, all of that. So I can tell you that clearly the UN did not shoot.
The UN chief also affirming the organization's role in continuing to support the people of the DRC. In his statement, Antonio Guterres pointed to the status of forces agreement with the DRC government that guarantees the inviolability of all UN premises in that country and underscored that attacks directed at UN peacekeepers may constitute a war crime, urging Congolese authorities to investigate these incidents swiftly and bring those responsible to justice. Sherman Riceby's SABC News, New York.
Well, for the latest on these stories, we're now joined by Congolese journalist Alain Uayikani. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, Alain. Always good to talk to you. What is the latest in terms of protests in the country against these UN-backed troops?
Thank you very much for having me again today and talking about these issues which is going on in the area. Yeah, as you can see, I'm in the town of Goma, following on this story. Today, through what happened yesterday, authorities tried to take a very strong measures here in the city of Goma, try to control the situation, because the pictures that you have seen since 2 days was very dramatic when the protesters invaded most of the UN logistic bases, and also they loot completely all the places they attacked. So today in Goma, it was a little bit, so the town is divided completely in two sides. There is a side, one side where all this situation from Monday took place. It's still very hostile. You see the stone along the road, and also some gunshots could be heard during the day as the soldiers, the DRC soldiers, deployed in all these areas, trying to maintain some warehouse of the UN in which you still have some of the rest of logistic. They have really to make sure that things are under the control. But protesters still coming. They try to come again today. We have seen the governor, the military governor himself of this province, try to move around with soldiers, trying to control the situation, removing the stone from the road, trying to give a little bit the sense of normal activities. But to be honest, the situation in the town of Goma is not yet in 50% working very well as it used to be. But out of Goma now, there is a sense of spreading of the situation across the region. As I'm talking to you, you mentioned, Christo Chamurenga mentioned what happened in Butembo yesterday, in which the incident which led to the death of these 3 UN peacekeepers, and also 10 civilians from the protesters, even though the government said the investigation is going on to know what happened exactly. But out of this city of Butembo, we have, like right now in the city of Beni, this is another area where UN has a big basis. There have been a movement since the day protesters tried to take over the base, which is located at Mavivi, main airport of the UN, but they did not succeed. But this evening, there is a huge movement of protest in the city. Even some gunshot has been heard in the city of Beni. And also the situation in the city of Uvira, where 4 people were killed, unfortunately, from the accident, as the UN soldiers were shooting bullets just to disperse people. Then, according to the governor of the South Kivu, one of the bullets just snatched the cable, the electrical cable, which unfortunately killed 4 people among protesters. So this is really showing how situation is still very tense. And we may see another situation more and more, maybe tomorrow morning, as now I'm telling you, the city of Beni, situation not very, very good, because they promised to come out on the road, on the street tomorrow in the city of Beni. So yes, situation still very volatile in the area so far.
Yeah. All right. So have you been able to get to the bottom of who shot who? You've described the one incident where a power pylon was shot and it killed people. But what about the previous shooting? The UN team is denying that any civilians were killed by their troops, any innocent civilians. What have you been able to ascertain?
Population in Goma here and everybody in the region, they are just accusing UN, saying that UN is responsible because police and the army was not taking part in this situation. While they were facing the UN, only the shooting was coming from one side of UN. This is according to the population. But me, I have experience of covering story in this area. Remember in 2019, I was one of the only journalists, maybe one cameraman who was filming the storming against the UN base in Mavivi, where I'm talking about, not at Boikene. And I could see how the situation was very volatile to the UN. They were unable to control the situation. until the base was completely stormed and also destroyed. This is the area where you don't have, when there is the situation like this during the protest, you don't have only two actors. I'm talking about protesters and maybe the UN, which has been attacked. This is a very, very critical area in which a small protest can be infiltrated. For example, in the city of Beni, this is the Beni and Butembo and even Goma here, there is a high rate of criminality, people using guns. So it's very, very easy until we have a very clear investigation from both sides, as the government of DRC said, and the UN also said, as they have mentioned, that they have possibility to track their bullet to know who did what during the protest. But with the small experience I have, it's very, very easy, the protests to be, to have another third part during the situation like this. Like what happened in Butembo, for example, the gun was snatched from the police, and then it became like a confrontation between the two sides, between police, between the UN and the protesters. So this kind of situation is very easy. You see them regularly in the town of Beni, for example. You have the case like this. So it's very difficult up to now to determine clearly who shot. But the UN, they use their guns to disperse this is what they have as, they used to do this. I experienced this myself in Beni during the protest in 2019. They were shooting just to disperse people until one person was killed at that time as well. Yeah. And the UN did not accept it directly, but they ended by accepting that, yes, one of their peacekeepers killed one protester. But we are not yet in this situation right now in Goma, because this is a situation which is really surrounded with a huge confusion so far, and it's very difficult to determine who is responsible of this situation. But in the side of population, they are very clear that UN has killed the population, the protesters. But we cannot confirm this in our level up to now.
All right, so these protests against MONUSCO, I'm just wondering what the alternative is. So they might be dissatisfied with the security they're providing, but for MONUSCO to leave, that leaves them with no security at all. Would they prefer that?
I try to discuss with some population here, with some people, even some of those guys who took part in they were in the protest yesterday and also on Monday. This is the same claiming. I heard it during 2019 protests against UN in Beni. The DRC people right now, they are saying that they have impression like the presence of UN is disturbing more the government vis-a-vis to its responsibility. Because you have to make it very clear, this protest is not only about UN, it's also about the failure of the security situation in general, even in the side of the DRC government and authorities. So the population has a little bit, when you are discussing with them, they have a sense of a failure of all a nation, not only just a UN. But the problem, what they really, they are claiming about right now, they're saying UN out of the DRC army, they have a special mandate. They are getting even another special brigade, which is composed mainly with the South Africans, Malawi and Tanzania. This brigade had the main objective to combat, to fight directly with or without the DRC soldiers. But the DRC citizens, they have impression like it seems like a UN is no longer engaged enough in this kind of operation. So, for example, some of the protesters I discussed with, they said, we have been watching these people with all this logistic, with all the budget they are voting each year, with the mandate they are getting from the Security Council. We have impression they are no longer doing their job. We prefer they leave so that we can face our government. Like yesterday during the protest, we have seen the vice governor facing these young people, trying to talk to them. They said, we are going to end with the UN. Then the second people will be the government, including you, the governor, because you have failed. You are not doing your work currently. So we are dealing with the UN. We have to make sure that they go. Then we will take now position against you as a government, because this is your own responsibility. But it seems all of you have failed from doing what is correct to protect the population. So it's all this situation. They don't really see UN now like an alternative. The truth is that the confidence between the two sides is totally disconnected right now. Population of this area doesn't see UN as a solution. True to what it's going on in the city of Beni, the ADF rebels have multiplied the killing. They have continued. They have even increased their capacity. They are attacking in 1 week more than 3 to 4 times. This was not happening in the past. And the UN is there, all the brigade is around, all the logistic is around. So yes, people doesn't trust again UN. One protester, for example, was telling me today, if UN has to stay here, it will be a starting work. They will have to start completely from the beginning to restore the trust from the beginning. And this, they don't believe that it will be possible between them right now. So yes, the UN will have to think twice with the partner, with the government, to see exactly how they can maybe discuss again, as they said yesterday. They have to sit and try to see what did not work. But in the side of the population, there is a big sense of disappointment vis-à-vis to the mission itself as a UN.
Alain, always great talking to you. Thank you so much indeed. Merci beaucoup pour votre temps et vos réflexions. Au revoir.
Merci.
Thank you. All right, that's Congolese journalist Alain Uayikani giving us an update on the situation in the DRC, which is quite disturbing. Protests turning violent and shootings seeing and leaving people killed. It's as many as 15 now in just a couple of days, including UN officials.